Hello, I'm Rebecca of the Garden Gate Flower Company.
And I'm Grace of Grace Alexander Flowers.
And we've come together to create Stuart and Alexander Gather at the Garden Gate.
A podcast taking you behind the scenes of two gardens, what we've been up to, inside, outside, and out and about. Absolutely.
Look, you've got
absolutely
a jacket.
Not corporate, just wearing a linen jacket. I wear jackets a lot.
Oh, I love a jacket.
But I will confess, I have literally just walked in from work.
I have walked in from work, but I've also managed to get into my PJs, having had a shower.
That is good
I
going.
know.
That is good
I know.
going.
I'm very impressed. I don't know. It's this time. It's the extra light now. It always throws me a bit where you think you've got more time, and then suddenly it's dinner, and I haven't even done all the things I'm supposed to do.
I have managed, in between getting in from work and saying to my husband, I'm really sorry, I'm recording a podcast in 10 minutes. Can you walk the dogs in the rain for me, please? To put a stew in the bottom.
Do you know where my husband is? In the woods walking the dog, and I've managed to put something in the oven. Talking about...
Is it as wet as it is here?
Grace, it's been awful. I mean, it's just been awful. It's been awful. It's school holidays, isn't it? You can set
Yeah.
I would like to say you can set your diary by it, but actually it hasn't got better since they went back and came off again. So yeah, I mean it's dry. It's dry this afternoon, but this morning, I'll tell you what I've been doing in a minute. But I was soaked, wet, absolutely soaking wet.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be affected by it, but I am dreaming of my Instagram. I don't know about you, but mine seems to be full of people on holiday at the moment.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm struggling with that slightly.
It's either
I could do with a good dose of sunshine.
It's either people on holiday, or it's people in the same position as me, which is I don't want to lower the tone of my Instagram, but for goodness sake, when is this going to change? Yeah, I drove along the road today, and it is literally biblical. You don't drive anywhere now. You almost have to sail down our roads. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bonkers. Those poor farmers.
Is this climate change? Is this what we're in for? Do you think?
But I mean,
the foreseeable.
The only person that is making me laugh my way through it is Arthur Parkinson, because I think I remember seeing one Instagram with him cycling in the pouring rain, saying he's got a hole in his welly, and that kept me going all week. So I don't. It's awful. It is awful. I think this is climate change. I think it is going to get warmer and wetter. I think what it does is it seems to not be able to get out of the weather system it's in. So we are going to go from this, aren't we, to hot, dry, and no rain. And the patterns seem to be elongated. So when we get rain, we get rain forever. When we get sun, we get sun forever, which is really difficult for gardening. It's going to be really hard.
Well, everyone should be regenerative in their approach, can I just say? Because the only thing that's going to make a difference to this is we look after the soil.
Yes.
So, yeah. We have terrible flooding where I am because there's one massive field that's just turned over to maize every year and is just looked after in a really horrendous way, and the water pours off it and comes straight through the village. And I live in number 2 Church Cottages and goes straight through number 1. So luckily we've never had a flood because we've got a really good drain at the front, but the amount of water that just pours through their house, they're at their wits' end with it.
We have got quite a few fields like that around us as well. I'm a farmer's daughter, and I do feel for organic farmers, I would say, but it is difficult. Even organic farming, it was literally sliding off the land. Although I did see, actually, one road I drove back from the garden centre today, they had banked up loads and loads of gravel and shingle. They were obviously trying to redirect it. That's how bad it is, from a house that was opposite. So they were obviously trying to do their best to get it moved away. But yeah, it is flipping bad. So tell me something good.
Something good. Well, that means going to my out. No, we were not ready for
out. Well, I tell you what,
yet.
I'm going to tell you what I have been doing inside. Because we have to find the joy of being inside. There's a gardening one and there's a children's one. My children's one, which I'll scoop over very quickly, is I treated myself to watching a film with the child this afternoon because I had got so wet and horrible and miserable. I just thought, I'm going to sit on the sofa for, 1 hour and 47 minutes and watch a Netflix film. Don't ask me what it is, because it's inappropriate for most of our readership, because it's some sort of Netflix drama film.
I am utterly desperate to ask what it is.
You know that awful thing where you just go, I can't remember even what it was called. I can't even remember. It was a guy from Marley and Me who goes across to, and I believe, I'm not entirely sure that they said where in Asia. Bear in mind my child's off to Asia at the end of the year. I was like, I'm not sure I want to watch this. But there's obviously civil unrest. And everything gets through the streets. A lot of guns and everything. But it had us both on the edge of our seats with the leftover Easter eggs and a rather lovely 1 hour and 47 minutes watching a Netflix cheesy movie. So I can highly recommend it. If it's pouring with rain, there's nothing to do that you can do in the garden. Just go in and watch Netflix.
Well, yeah, that wasn't going to be my in, but I have 2 ins for you in that case. One of which is terribly off-brand as well, which is it got to Sunday afternoon, and I have a newsletter on Sunday afternoon, and I also had 2 reports to finish for work before Monday morning, and something else to do, and I went twice through The Devil Wears Prada, trying to get all this work done. So when I feel in need of something, I will put on
The Devil Wears
Prada. Just watch it on loop.
I love it. Yeah, it's the real go-to, isn't it?
It is a real go-to, and it's problematic for all sorts of reasons, and transformational, aspirational, all those sorts of things, but I love it. Although it was a hilarious thing at work where one of my team Googled me and discovered my parallel life as a gardener and a flower grower. She said, oh my God, you're like a celebrity. And I said, oh, I'm not really like a celebrity. And she said, you're like Miranda Priestley. And I was like, I can take that if that's what, I could do that. I could be Miranda Priestley.
Yeah, that's all right.
I couldn't. I'm too nice to everybody, but I'd love to be.
Yeah.
To just not care.
It's a good film. You've got to go and watch it if you've not seen it. The other thing I've been doing inside, by the way, is the last batch of the ranunculus. Been sprouting them all in the dark. I bought the corms from lovely Emily from 3 Acre, and she's got this big stash of them, so I bought some from her, and I've never really done them before because they are a flower I can buy fairly easily from a local grower, and I've slightly always had that ethos sometimes that the land that I've got is so valuable in sort of the quantity that grow what you can't buy. But if anyone's seen her Instagram, she's been sharing the most beautiful butterfly ranunculus, and I just got green-eyed, and I just thought, no, I'm gonna give it another go. So I sprouted them in the dark, and it's a little bit like the dahlias. There's something really satisfying about something that is super uber ugly that turns so beautiful, isn't there? You basically bring them on in the dark inside. So it's a good little job for doing a few things inside when you can't get outside. So now they've sprouted. They took quite a while to sprout, and Emily reminded me that the butterfly ranunculus take longer to sprout than the standard ranunculus. So if you are doing them, don't give up on them. That was her advice to me. So they've now been potted on, and hopefully they'll grow on and they will go out to the land, because you can't put them inside the tunnel. It'll be too hot. So they're going to be an outside crop later on. Maybe July time?
I love that you get flower lust just like the rest of us. I love that you see something and you just can't resist it.
I can't. And I keep doing this thing where I'm like, I don't need them. Do not look at them. And like I said to you before, and I think I've said to you on the podcast before, it's really dangerous me going to a garden centre, because I am like a kid in a sweetie shop, even though I shouldn't. Because all the rules of you don't buy something that's out in blossom straight away, you should have something that just comes out gradually in blossom. I'm like, no, I want the thing that looks amazing now. So
see, I'm the opposite. I go round the back and I try and find the sales trolley, and I buy 15 things that are just about to die, and then I kill them.
Are you really good with going to thrifty vintage shops then, and second hand and things like that?
No, okay. I'm terrible at that until Vinted was invented, and now I'm like, why would you ever pay full price for anything ever? I'm all over the Vinted, but I'm slightly allergic to charity shops.
Because I thought it's naturally, it's like that sort of thing. I'm not very good with rifling. I do like things beautifully laid out. Ideally colour. And anything tactile. If I end up being dragged into Zara by my children, it just fills me with I can't bear it when it's been open near where we are. If you go in 2 hours after it's opened, it looks like it's been raided. I just can't. I literally can't deal with it. I'm just like, no, I'm really, really sorry. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it.
Oh, I just don't go shopping like that. But no, I think I was born very near Wimbledon. I spent my first 3 years of my life in Wimbledon. I think I might be a bit of a womble.
Yeah.
Like, so I do like to rescue things and try and make them
better. Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, we're having a huge decluttering thing at the moment because of the renovations starting. And every day I'm like, I'm going to just embrace minimalism.
It's really hard.
It's going to be amazing. But
no,
it's really hard. And I think the hardest thing about that is the going back to climate change, is the environmental guilt.
Yeah.
So I have 6 different conditioners that didn't quite work for my hair, but I opened the bottle. Now, what do you do with a 7/8 full of bottle of conditioner?
No, I know.
You can't just put it all in landfill.
No, you can't. I don't know whether we've got St Petrox here, so they take a lot of stuff for the homeless and things like that, and people that are setting up in new.
I don't think they take open.
I'm probably thinking they don't take open toiletries. No. It's a real issue.
As soon as you've taken the lid off.
Anything I don't like goes to the teenagers. So mine never. So I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah, this and I do have my children sometimes going, why have I got Curl Frizz Ease conditioner? I'm like, yeah, use it up, or wash the dog with it, Grace.
Yeah.
Surely Hugo can cope with a bit of anti-frizz conditioner.
Hugo, absolutely. I think a coconut scented Hugo would be a delightful thing. An absolutely delightful thing. Yeah.
So tell me have we done your in? I've even lost where we are.
Well, I absolutely wasn't going to use sitting and watching Devil Wears Prada and tapping on my laptop to produce some writing this weekend. Wasn't going to be my thing. But it's closely related, actually. But it's slightly more pretentious, which is in keeping with the branding of this podcast. Which is, on YouTube, you can find Monty Don's French Gardens. So he's currently doing Spanish Gardens.
I've watched them.
Which is on BBC at the moment. Yeah, we have also watched them. I couldn't love them because my heart belongs to one of his episodes of his French Gardens, which is the Gourmet Gardens.
Lush.
It's so grainy, and Monty is, I think, about 45, and it's all just incredibly vintage, the whole thing, but I love it. So we treated ourselves on Friday night. We had a really bit of a week last week, and we had a glass of wine left over from Christmas, some of the best stuff, and we watched Monty Don's French Gardens, the Gourmet Garden episode. And it never fails to warm my cockles.
I'm a bit panicked to watch that now because, like I said to you, I've got a husband who's desperate to move to the south of France. It could be dangerous if I start showing him that.
There is not enough money in the world that persuade me to not live anywhere except here until I watch that programme. And then I think,
I love that.
I could live in the south of France.
Where was the Gourmet Garden? Do you remember where it was?
There's lots of different ones. So he has themes. So I think one of the next episodes, something like the Artist's Garden or something like that, and he goes to Monet's Garden and things like that. But no, so he travels around, and some of the gardens are better than others, and some of the ones. One of them is my favourite garden in the world ever, which I'd love to tell you what it is, but my French accent is atrocious.
Don't worry, it can't be as bad as mine.
So I'll write it down on a piece of paper and hold it up. Which is Prairie d'Orsat.
That sounded quite good.
Which is the Prairie d'Orsat. Well, I took a run up and just went for it, which I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think was designed by the same guy who did Babylon Storen in South Africa.
Ooh.
I think I will Google that and fact check it before we press publish.
Well, it always gets people shouting at the other end of the podcast that we've got it wrong. That's the best part, isn't it? When we tell people completely the wrong thing. I'm going to go back and watch them because I must have watched it, and now I'm thinking, have I missed it? And I can't bear the thought that there is a Monty. You know me and Monty. I love a bit of Monty. Do you know my guilty pleasure is watching Gardener's World on a Sunday morning, having a cup of tea in bed. Yeah, it's honestly, it's just bliss until obviously wedding season comes and one doesn't do that anymore. I love that.
Doing the breakdown.
I love that. Bring on the rain. I'm ready for Monty.
This is heretical. I'm not always sure how I feel about Gardener's World.
Well, I skip through quite a lot of it, which is why I watch it in iPlayer. Playback? Yeah. Because there are things, no offence to anybody if you've watched the recent one, but I'm not into hostas. I don't need to understand hostas, so that got whizzed past. But actually, I've watched it a little bit more with an open mind recently, because I'm a little bit the same as you. I was a bit over it, and then started getting back into it again, thinking, well, actually, you can do that. You can just forward the bit that doesn't interest you. And actually, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's more that I spend so much of my waking hours thinking about gardening. And it's that Friday night, and we've both come home from work. It's been a really long week. And my husband says, oh, there's a GW to watch. And I'm like, can we watch something funny?
Like your husband's good.
I like to switch
Your husband's
off.
good. He comes in and says,
"Oh, he loves it.
My goodness,
he loves it."
Okay, my husband does not come in. And
if we've missed one, he'll say, "We've got another one to catch up on." You know.
Oh, no. You want to go and watch This Town or something? We've watched that. We've binge watched This Town BBC series. Set in, I know you're going to ask me when it's set, and I'm really bad at these sort of things. It's like 70s. It's all the troubles with an Irish sort of.
Is it a bit grimy and a bit grim?
Yeah, but I like it. I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we do. But the music's good. The music's brilliant.
Do you know what? That was almost the only thing in the world that could have pulled me round on that, because I have a really grim day job, and I'm not sure I'm ready for grim when I get home.
Actually, that's a really valid point, isn't it? If that is your day, to come home and layer another part of it. Yeah, my day is the other. It's butterflies and bumblebees, and so the evening's okay to sit on the edge of my seat, so to speak.
I also have just a slightly overactive empathy sort of thing, which is part of my craft and my job, but it means that if I watch anything that's more stressful than Harry Potter, basically my head explodes because I just can't process it. So I have to be quite careful. Yeah. I don't like Jeopardy.
But what about outside? What have you been able to do outside? My outside has taken me just into the greenhouse.
I've been a blur.
Have you?
I have been a blur. I've made the most of the moments. The weekend, I really just dug deep and just went for it. And I've ordered a load of mild steel.
Ooh.
So I've been making arches and sweet pea frames and generally getting a bit creative with that, which has been so much fun. Much fun. So I have done a field tour for Gather, but I will do also a load of videos about how I make frames using 6mm mild steel rods, 6 meters long, can I just say? So we're getting a bit
Presumably you don't put them on the landy. Do you put them on the landy? Where do you?
They get delivered.
I can imagine you going off to the garden centre and it just taking off on your landy or something, you know? Yeah. Oh, gosh.
No, having a steel fabricator in Southampton where we get all of our metal from. FH Brundle, shout out. They're not going to sponsor us, but I will highly recommend. So I got myself out there and cleared all my beds for my sweet peas, top dressed everything.
Well done.
All my paths are clear. I am desperate to get those sweet peas out. But I missed my biodynamic flower day, which was Saturday and Sunday. So they won't actually be going in the ground until next Sunday.
So I just seem to be sowing seeds constantly because it's my theory is little and often. Just as a bit of advice out there, especially if you've got a spot like I've got, which is very, very small. But I'm at that stage now where it's so frustrating because trying to get stuff out from the greenhouse, and even if I put them up at the land, I decided with my tunnel to have it meshed both sides, not very high off the ground, but because I wanted to grow things like peonies and dahlias and roses but have that sort of more permanent crop of roses and peonies, I wanted the airflow to be very good. Well, all I will say is the airflow is off the chart. So my poor husband and I were up at the weekend trying to put in another windbreak the other side, which has got the prevailing wind, which I could have actually, potentially in hindsight, not had a mesh that side, but these tunnels are almost useless in the summer. My tunnel is more for... I'm trying to think of my tunnel more as a Spanish tunnel than I am thinking of it as this hot box. But
I'm just going to interrupt and say a Spanish tunnel is like a polytunnel, but it's just a roof. So it's a roof rather than a whole tunnel down to the sides.
Don't know what it is. Yeah, and some people take the whole lot off in the winter, take the whole membrane off, and then other people in the summer will put obviously it back on again and keep it rolled up, so they basically stop everything. You stop all the flowers spoiling because of our summer rain. That's essentially what it's for. And it's great. It's really, really good. So I'm trying to see whether with this sort of rather breezy site that I end up with a tunnel that is much more useful than something that just gets 45 God knows what degrees in the summer, and it's just a nightmare. What it does mean is it's quite airy at the moment. So, yeah, so it's a bit of... It does also mean that the side beds, because I've got beds down either side and one in the middle, the ones on the side, and certainly the half, 50 centimetres, do not need watering. So the water's coming in, the wind's coming in, and I just am finding that being out, trying to sow small amounts of seed, prick them out, pop them on, it's quite tricky to then get that stage where they are teenagery enough to be taken up to the land where they don't need to be looked after like babies. And I think we've spoken about this before. It's that whole thing of I could really probably start thinking about having a really decent cold frame at my house. So I think that's going to be one of my next investments, will be a really decent cold frame. And I know cold frames just seem to have a really bad rap, because I do think that there is some really poor quality ones out there. But I'm really keen to get a system working where they come out of the greenhouse and they go in there and then they go up to the land. That's my plan. But I've been doing more Cosmos. I've done another set of AMI, because if you haven't recently and you've done it very early on, it's worth doing another one. And then maybe in 3-4 weeks' time doing another one. So that's the way I do it. I try and do them almost like a rotation, that the mat's on. If the mat is on, the tray is full.
I've turned my mat off, actually. I think I'm at the stage where everything that I wanted to put on
done.
the mat has sprouted and
great.
grown. And everything else, I think the weather's warm enough now to just put it in the greenhouse and germinate in the greenhouse. But like you, I am looking at all of these trays of these incredibly precious, tiny, tiny, tiny things, which, because of the rain and the light's not very good, they're not really growing on. But I daren't put them anywhere. I daren't risk them. This is a disgusting story, but I left a travel cup out yesterday. I had a cup of tea on a dog walk, which is the ultimate indulgence. Accidentally left it outside, and it had 8 slugs in it this morning. Oh my goodness. And I was just like, this is just... I daren't put anything in the ground, because I just think it's going to be raised by slugs.
Actually, given, I think it was a few weeks ago, I had to clear my greenhouse out, because I think I said to you I had the new cedar shelf put in, so I had a good opportunity, and I had a slug in there, obviously more than one. Managed to find them, disposed of them, and then I noticed only a couple of days ago I've lost 4 small little delphiniums, white delphiniums, and it's so frustrating, because you just don't get that time back. There obviously is some in the greenhouse, which, it's like you said, they can decimate a tray overnight. But I don't know what you do really. So beer traps, those sorts of things. But I think they're in amongst... I stuck all my pots underneath, so they're probably just hanging out somewhere else.
I went through all of my pots absolutely obsessively. Yeah. Everything that was not my dry pots that are unplanted, but I just put all of my plants in a big water tray. And what I find is that if there's any slugs in the bottom, to stop themselves drowning, they will climb up the side of the pot. So you leave them in a water tray for about an hour, and then you just look at literally every single pot, and then you'll suddenly find a cluster of them, and you'll be like,
But my greenhouse has turned into a Jenga. Yeah. It's like a live game of Jenga. If you move something, everything else might topple. And you literally have to stand in there and stand still, and remember not to step back, because there's probably a tray of ranunculus behind you. So... to then start moving around pots, I feel like I've just got to go with it. So that's what I've been doing out. What about? Have you managed to leave your hometown, other than for your posh job? I say your posh job, your grown-up job, your grown-up job,
my day job. Well,
you've got some exciting,
yes, actually. So I am, not just for the podcast, but for my own mental health and sanity, trying to make a big effort to just stop and go out for a meal. I love eating, I love food, and so going out for a meal is just always the ultimate. But we haven't managed to do it of an evening recently, so we had Sunday lunch in a country pub.
I love it.
And oh my goodness, it was utterly
Can
blissful.
you do a recommendation then for anyone that lives in your area? Or you don't want to?
Yeah, the Candlelight Inn, Bishop's Woods. We took a setter, because the owners have setters, and last time when we took her, they gave her a roast dinner, and so we thought we've got to take her.
Hang on, did you leave 2? Did you leave 2 at home and only took 1? That's a bit mean. You can't do that.
I did. We can't take Hugo anywhere social because he just shouts all the time, and we can't take 2 setters and leave Hugo on his own at home because he will just be too distraught.
Which one had to take one for the team then? Which one got to not go?
So Maud had to stay at home and be Hugo's, a Morag. Morag is very what we call scone trained. So my mum comes, and as part of her exercise for the week, she takes Morag to Heston Gardens, and she does a sort of, I don't know what the ratio of scone eating and walking actually is, but so it means that Morag is fully qualified to sit next to a table and let people eat in a National Trust property. Not that Kesticum is National Trust, but you know what I mean. So no, Morag got to come, and she's just so charming, and she just wags her tail in the most glorious way, and just is so friendly and is wonderful. So she is very much our easiest dog.
I've got one a bit more like Hugo. If we stop, there is a moment of when are we leaving? When are we leaving? When are we leaving? And it's quite stressful. So yeah, we try, but inevitably it's not worth it really. But I love a Sunday lunch. I have to say I got cooked an amazing Sunday lunch. We had our late family Easter, which was lovely because my eldest was off playing rugby in Belgium for a rugby tour. Goodness. And I had a great time. So we changed Easter. So actually Easter feels like it's gone on for a very long time because we had then had obviously we all have to do an egg hunt still, even the adults, which literally falls into complete chaos, and it's quite competitive, which as we've all got older has just got funnier, to be honest with you. So that was good fun. But also I've been out this morning, actually. I've taken on a very nice project redesigning a client's garden. And it's been really interesting because obviously I think we've spoken about this before, about what we'd plant versus obviously my job. Normally I'm growing things that are very different to I had my own garden. So this is suddenly a little opportunity for me to grow a little sort of garden and have a redesign. So there's 2 gardens. The house is beautiful, and I've known it since I was a child, and it's very close to where I grew up. So it's really rather lovely, and it's a bit of a pinch me moment because I stand and look around and just think I can't believe I'm gardening in such a beautiful place. So this morning I took the client off, and I did feel like a kid in a sweetie shop. We literally raided the garden centre to buy new plants for this, what I'm referring to as the Italian garden, just because I love to call everything a nice name. It's where this lovely couple will be able to go and sit and have a gin and tonic in the evening and enjoy the space. It was very lovely, actually. The chap actually created it for his wife for, I think, either a birthday or an anniversary. It was going to be the rose garden, but the roses didn't really ever grow there. It wasn't really a particularly great site for them. Oh. I think they had a lot of trees, and they have actually taken a lot of them back. But we've decided to perennialise it quite a lot because it's quite down far from the house. But also because I think whenever and you know this is a really good thing that you can relate to, is that at the moment they're having a big wall done with a new border, and it's all a little bit taking over their lives. And you know when something is so... It's so awful, isn't it? It's got to get worse before it gets better. But what it is done is it's become this enormous thing that's all they can see. So when I arrived, I just said, well, look, because you're having new walls put in and steps put in, we can't really do this area. Let's just not think about this area. But your eye line, let's carry it on down to the bottom of the garden and let's redo the Italian garden. So that was my out. I know it's not very far because it wasn't far from my house.
No, it's amazing.
But it was great fun.
Although what I'm going to take from that is one of my ultimate favourite things, which is giving ordinary things, domestic everyday things, really, really pretentious names. It's the best. So
yeah, friends laugh at me.
We were on holiday in Cornwall one year, and we went to some outdoor theatre, and we were sat behind a couple, and you're just waiting for something to start, and you're just working your way through the picnic hamper and a glass of this and a snipple of that, and the couple in front said, "Oh God, it was dreadful. We had a flood that went straight through the back kitchen." And my husband and I just looked at each other and just fell about laughing. So we said, we have got to have a back kitchen. That is a theme that we have continued throughout our lives together. So when we bought the cottage next door, it's got the pokiest little kitchen. It's awful. It's just, can't tell you how dreadful it is. So we call it the scullery. And instantly it makes us feel better about the fact that it's got this dreadful...
I love the scullery. I love the
that we need to rip out and redo.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, they love it as well. So as soon as I said, look, because it's really funny, because I also think... it's naming things to make it easier to communicate, because trying to say, well, that one down over there, I'm like, no, we're just going to call it the Italian garden, and then we're going to call the other one some sort of border. I don't know what that will be, but I'm having a great time doing it. So it's basically a bit of a weekly project at the moment to get it cleared up and ready. And it is also getting plants that I like, but also that work really well in this setting to make it feel like they've been there a while as well. And that's the tricky thing, isn't it? So actually digging some things up and moving things around, spreading things. They've got loads of Lily of the Valley and most incredible hellebores already. So I shall be going and dividing and moving them so that we can spread. So it doesn't look like the garden is completely different from other areas. It's a nice flow going through the garden, which would be really lovely. So that's what I've been doing now.
I should be following with interest.
I know, I haven't really shared it because I always think it's somebody's...
Well, if
it's a client's house and stuff. But I will certainly update you all on how it's going. It is very beautiful. I might be able to take some quiet, non-descriptive shots to be able to show maybe what I've been up to. But that has been good fun.
Well, I decided on a bit of a spur of the moment thing at the weekend. So I was taking some pictures, the before pictures. So just in case I ever get into house and garden. The before pictures of the new kitchen garden. And I thought, actually, I think I'm going to document this whole process. I've been thinking so much about those conversations we had about Instagram not really showing the work in progress and only ever showing the end result. And so many people ask me about garden design and about starting from scratch and what you would do to transform a boring lawn into something beautiful. So I have decided to embrace my vulnerability and just document the whole process.
Think it's lovely. I actually really enjoy the before and after shots. I definitely think people like that. I think it's really inspirational because you can't imagine. I did it with the land, and I will, as the plot evolves, share a bit more. I haven't really done yet. It's just been so awful up there. Sharing the process and actually the hard work that goes into it. Gardening is really hard work. It doesn't come easy. It doesn't come easy. So I think it's really lovely. They've been delighted. So there's a lot of, a little bit like you, with your pathways, they've got a lot of walls that they need to rebuild and put new capping on because they're going to have new tops to the walls because they were made very pointy originally, and they're going to go back to them being a bit more Cornish with the laid slate on top. So going back to a much more traditional walling. I love brick walling as well. My goodness, dry stone walling is one of my other. Literally, I love it. Love a good wall.
Oh, absolutely. Although, if you happen to be having a wall rebuilt, as weirdly we are at the moment, a very small section wall, remember to put some eyes in it so you can train things up and over. And the thing that nobody told me is you can't train a rose over a wall without tying the rose to the wall. It won't naturally just tumble over it.
No.
So, yes, I've put in a request for special eyes on the top and the far side.
What a clever tip that is.
It's a clever tip. That's if for the 2, maybe 3 people who ever hear this podcast that are having a wall rebuilt. That's my top tip for you.
I better go letting the client know. That's going to be... I better make sure I get there before it gets finished. But yeah, no, that is really good. Really good. Because really...
Yeah, just set them into the cement.
Yeah. I have to say, I love stone walls. Obviously, they do harbour snails and slugs and stuff. Snails particularly. But that is really good. Love that. Well done. Top tip for our podcast. What a way to leave it.
What a way to leave it. Well, I think we're both off to have our tea now.
We are. We don't have to walk the dogs, at least.
I know. Winning at life today. I might even go and put my pyjamas on.
I'm already there. Anyway, lovely to chat to you.
There's probably a gardener's world we need to catch up on.
Totally. Lovely to chat to you, Grace. Speak to you next week.
Lovely to chat to you
Bye.
too. Speak to you next week.